everyone, how are you doing? My name is Shannon Gilmore, and I would like you to just sit with me for a little bit, as I would like you to imagine living in a world where your self-worth hinges entirely on the admiration of others. Oh, is this something you can already relate to? Yeah, me too. This is a trait that we all have in common with each other and with the narcissist. Oh, yeah. The difference is when someone threatens our self-worth, we believe them and then we retreat inwardly. Oh, yeah. We don't express our feelings openly to other people. Think about it. The delicate balance in here is upset with a word, a glance, a misplaced laugh even. That's a fragile reality. And we share that fragile reality with someone who has narcissistic tendencies. The reality that we share, although similar, I assure you, the reactions that we have are different from the narcissist. We implode from the inside out, taking our shame and silence and going behind closed doors to cry ourselves to sleep, or we raid the cupboards, eating our feels. As we fall into depression, as we ruminate on what we perceive to be wrong, as we look at that wrong and we can't help but say, yeah, you know what? I guess they're right. I guess they're right about me. I am that bad. I am that stupid. I am that ignorant. I guess I am unworthy. See, we fall asleep at night, crying our eyes out, begging to God for some security, for some hope. And after that morning is over, well, we get over it, or we try to. It's done. We seek out to change ourselves, if we can. But the narcissist, no, they don't take time for introspection. They don't take time negatively or positively for introspection. Why? Because they can't. They can't. The narcissist doesn't take time for introspection because there is nothing in there to look at. See, narcissists experience emotional pain differently than you and I do. Yes, they can feel sadness and anger and jealousy and rage and happiness and joy. They can feel all of that. But excuse me, the good qualities that they have, it's superficial. The narcissist experiences an emotional pain, a deep emotional pain that triggers an old wound that has not yet healed. And this is triggered when their sense of self is challenged. Now they react just like we do, only it's different. See, the narcissist cannot self-criticize. We can, and we do. I know I did today. I put out a live here this afternoon, and I could have been angrier, but I was agitated. And in that agitation, before I went online, and I was still online, I still went live and vented, but I calmed down some. But before I went live, I was self-depreciating, and that's my trauma. This is what I do. I don't take it out on God. I don't take it out on other people. I take it out on myself. And when things aren't going the way I wanted or the way I expected, it's got to be me, right? I got to be the problem. There's got to be a problem with me. And I don't point the finger and sit there and accuse other people of wrongdoing, like, hey, you did me wrong. No, if something's not going my way or something unexpected happens, I retreat and go behind my bedroom door and I cry. And yeah, sometimes I eat my feels. We're all works in progress. But with the narcissist, oh, this is a direct attack on their character. Instead of self-assessing to say, oh yeah, maybe they're right. Oh. Instead of doing anything like that in self-reflection, they react differently because they can't change. So they have no choice but to take it out on everybody else because they can't self-reflect. Welcome to Positively Spiritual. My name is Shannon Gilmore, and today I would like to talk to you about the wounds of the ego. The narcissist has many, and so do we. I think that's why we are attracted to each other. Oh! I know, I said a taboo thing. Well, we both have areas where our egos need healing. Where we differ is we can heal, and the narcissist cannot. We can change because we can change our perspective. We hold empathy within our hearts, so we can actually look at ourselves and we can see a perspective. Maybe not right away, but eventually after the crying is done and the temper tantrums are done, we gain a new perspective when we change. And like for me today, I've got so many learning lessons today, it's not even funny. It's joyful to know that God is with me, but I've been humbled. I was humbled today, even on live. There was people watching, and you know what? You guys humbled me, and that's what we're here for. We're here to support each other and work it out. And even though you guys didn't talk it through with me, you allowed me to talk it out through this channel. So thank you so very much. I think the reason why we're attracted to each other, us and the narcissist, is because we both have areas in our egos that do need healing. We totally can resonate, but where we differ is we can heal because we can change. The narcissist can't. So while we are able to eventually brush off the criticism, dust up, it's okay. We pat our jeans down and we keep moving forward. The narcissist's ego is like a delicate mirror reflecting other people's perceived perfections or captivating attributes of human nature. And so there's a sense of superficiality there. The narcissist has a different reaction than we do when it comes to slights against their person because they have this mirror. They say you break a mirror, you get 7 years bad luck. Maybe that's why the narcissist, just rages when they're triggered. Because there's a crack in their mirror. And now they have bad luck, bad karma to adhere to. I'm just joking. But it does make sense, right? Metaphorically, it makes sense, right? Yeah. So a narcissist's ego is like a delicate mirror, reflecting other people's perceived perfections or captivating attributes. And there's a crack that only the narcissist sees because the narcissist is hyper-vigilant. Oh yeah, they are. That's why they trigger so easily, because they're hyper-vigilant. They're always on the lookout for something. Somebody's, their head's on a swivel. Somebody's out to get them. Somebody's speaking bad about them. Who's angry at me now? Who doesn't like what I said or did now? Who doesn't have my back? Who's out to get me? They're hyper-vigilant because they're in a state of fear, and they have this fight or flight response. That's how they live. And every time someone offers criticism to the narcissist, that crack in that mirror becomes bigger. The crack in the narcissist's ego, like a mirror, cannot be repaired. So the narcissist has to dig in, like really dig in, and put on a brave face and rely on who he or she is naturally. Oh, but wait. The narcissist mirrors ourselves back to us. So the mirror is a facade of who the narcissist is, as the mirror is a facade as who the narcissist hopes to be or portrays themselves to be. So they have no inner resolve, no intestinal fortitude. Intestinal fortitude is bravery and courage. They have no guts, no glory. They are an empty shell of the human consciousness, only half complete, as their decrepit bodies that were meant to serve the Lord end up serving themselves. So let's just dig into this. A narcissist's ego is like a delicate mirror, reflecting a facade of goodness and goodwill. Okay, we already know that. But it's just, all it takes is just one crack. One misstep in mishandling that mirror in that external dance of validation that creates self-worth. And the mirror just shatters. At the heart of narcissistic injury is a fragile self-image. We know this, but when you're going through this, it's hard to understand. When you're going through the narcissistic tirade, their rage, it's hard to snap out of it and go, oh yeah, Psychology 101 says that this is how they react. It's not like that. When you're blindsided or you come up against, excuse me, when you come up against the narcissist's rage, it blindsides you. You're not prepared for it at any time. At the heart of narcissistic injury is a fragile self-image, because the narcissist doesn't have a self-image. They have to borrow from other people. And so what they borrow from people whom they see, like they see good qualities in you, so they borrow it. They take it for and pretend it's theirs. The narcissist relies on external praise to maintain this sense of superiority that hides or tries to maintain this facade of them taking from you. They don't know how to hold themselves true to those good qualities of you, so they just have to have this pious nature about themselves. When this validation from you is withdrawn, when you don't give them the validation and the praise that they want, instead you question them, or maybe you inadvertently dismiss them, this disrupts their emotional equilibrium. So if you guys like this video, may I kindly ask you to like this video, give it a thumbs up, and subscribe if you haven't done so already. Thank you very much. So think back to a time when someone's critique left you feeling hurt. How did that make you feel? Now, imagine that moment amplified, like tenfold, like even 100-fold. It tears at your very identity. What identity? The narcissists don't really have one, do they? Well, that's where psychology and I differ. I think the narcissist cannot take critiques because it exposes them to the frauds that they are. But underneath the superficial charm, the fake niceness, there's a dark, hollow shell of a man or a woman underneath that. They don't have a personality, because if they did, they wouldn't be borrowing from you, would they? They have a dark personality, and one that doesn't get along in our world. Narcissistic injury, according to psychologists, is the reaction of criticism gone wild, as the narcissist desperately tries to get you to pull back your words, as they use aggression to intimidate. The narcissist really does feel injured. But I question, are they really fighting you, or are they fighting themselves? And I'm even questioning that more now, because with what I went through today is I turned on myself. I didn't wake up in a very good mood. I mean, I thought I did, but there's stress, and I just had problems with my computer last night, and it caught up with me today, as there was the stress from my computer, as my computer is a lifeline to me because it's what I use to write with. So I was feeling it. And instead of just allowing myself to take it all in stride, that emotion was building and building and building, and I popped. And I turned on myself. And I'm wondering if narcissists, if they turned on themselves, they would look at how they treat us. Look at how they treat us. They would destroy themselves if they turned on themselves. They would absolutely fracture to become irreparable. And so I question that maybe they turn on us in order to avoid injuring themselves. It's just a question at this point. But I personally wouldn't be surprised. When the narcissist is challenged, they cannot maintain the truth against their fabricated fantasy in their minds. When the narcissist, that injury happens, it's because the truth hurts. And the narcissist will never be as great as they think they are or how they want to be. But that's a secret between you and me right at this point. I don't even think the narcissist knows this. Even the self-actualized narcissist. It's hard to know what you're doing to yourself when you can't see it. And I know for me today that I had to get to this point of doing what I always do, what I've done to myself in the past. Yeah, it goes back to childhood. And I had some pretty good insights from my agitation today. Do I feel bad? Yes, I do. But am I going to, ignore myself? I had this discovery today that in my youth, in my foster family, when I got in trouble, it was go to your room, you're grounded, don't want to see you, don't talk to me, leave me alone. And I only came out of my room for school and for dinner time and breakfast and lunch. And that's the kind of communication I had with the family. And I just sat there and ate quietly and didn't talk to anybody. And this was a pattern, a constant pattern, that there was no talking about the reason why I got grounded, the reason why I got punished. It was taken upon myself. My parents just assumed that, well, she did that, so she knows why she did it. So they never, asked me, well, why did you do that? We love you, and that you can feel safe in this family to talk and share what's troubling you. I never had that. It was you're seen and not heard kind of thing. So when problems go wrong, I don't look to, outside circumstances. I don't look at other people. I look at myself and I say, well, I must have done something wrong. And whether I did something wrong or not, whether you have done something wrong or not, it does not give you the right to emotionally, verbally beat yourself up and take the responsibility. And we're going to talk about that tomorrow in a really enlightening video. So when the narcissist is challenged, they cannot maintain the truth against their fabricated fantasy in their minds. See, in their fabricated fantasy, they believe that they are so great. They are the grandiose person who can never do any wrong. They are the best of the best. And everybody should be fawning and falling over them. Well, the narcissist will never admit that they are not as great as they think they are or want to be. Maybe they can't even see it. Maybe it's a lie. Maybe they've gaslit themselves so many times that they don't know. Hi everyone, thank you for joining me tonight. It's nice to see you. So this has to stop, us beating ourselves up, but us also allowing the narcissist to take their aggression out on us. So here are the common triggers of narcissistic injury. Number 1, criticism. A simple suggestion from you becomes the unpardonable sin, according to the narcissist. They interpret any form of criticism or critique, even if it's constructive, they take this as an attack on their self-image. Well, it is, because that's all they've got. See, your critique becomes like that Trojan horse where their inner world crumbles as you expose them for the lack of inner strength that they have, because there is no authentic person. They got nothing. Seriously, they got nothing. Number 2, rejection and abandonment. Oh, this is familiar. This is something that we share in common with the narcissist. Hi, nice to see you. Welcome. Come on in. No, I'm not venting. I got my venting over this afternoon. So if you guys watched my video this afternoon about me venting, I apologize. I'm sorry you had to see that, but it was necessary because it was a learning lesson. We'll talk about that another time. But number 2 is rejection and abandonment, and whether it's in a breakup or being excluded from a social circle, rejection threatens their need for constant admiration. In their eyes, they are not just being left out in the cold. They are actually being betrayed. They feel it. Number 3, comparison to others. If they perceive someone is more successful or popular than they are, well, of course they feel inferior. I mean, that's natural as kids. And see, the narcissist hasn't grown up yet. So the narcissist is a stunted child in an adult's body. So the more you shine, the more that they whine and wither, playing, oh, you should not fear, to the tune of their tears and self-destruction. But see, they don't turn that self-destruction on themselves and say, I'm an idiot, I'm a fool, I messed up, I did this wrong, I did that wrong, and boy, I could have done that better. No, they turn it all on you and make you the victim. They force you to take responsibility for the what they're supposed to be taking responsibility for. Number 3, or no, number 4, sorry. They have a loss of control. Yeah, that's pretty obvious when that narcissistic injury comes. Look out. It's like duck and cover. Seriously. Narcissists thrive on dominance, and that is the only way their ego cannot be challenged, is when they can dominate you. So when they can no longer manipulate people in situations, they feel exposed and powerless. Triggering is a profound emotional response for them, as they can fake it so well. They manipulate their anger. They manipulate that trigger. Yeah, they are raging. Yeah, that rage is real, believe it. But they're also manipulating it, and they're making themselves seem like they're out of control when really they are not. They are in control. So imagine a narcissist in a situation where they no longer have control, where someone stands up to them, or worse, ignores them. What do they feel? A loss of identity, a loss of self. The loss of self is, for them, permanent. And I believe we are seeing the 4 stages of grief play out in narcissism. There's shock and numbness. The individual is unable to accept that loss has happened. They go on yearning and searching. The individual becomes aware of the void left after the loss. And there's disorganization and despair. This is initial acceptance, but the reality of loss is that what is done is done. It can't be repaired. So the narcissist vacillates between the 3 main stages of grief, and may even, they may even accept who they are, but they can't deal with the shame, and so they recycle the stages of grief, and that is ultimately what we see from the narcissist. That's my belief, of course. This is my opinion. And how do you deal with that? How do you deal with that? You leave the room. You don't entertain them. You go gray rock. You have no emotional attachment. You detach yourself from the narcissist. That's ultimately the best thing you can ever do, is emotionally detach yourself from the narcissist. So, I don't know. It takes a while for you to detach yourself in the way of seeing the narcissist for who they really are. If you don't want to see the narcissist for who they truly are, you're not going to see it. You're going to give yourself every excuse on the planet. You're going to, I'm not going to say you're going to enable them, but you may still feel like there's hope. You may still feel like if you just give them a little bit, if you just give them a little bit more of yourself, then maybe they will see the light. No. I don't know how many times we need to say this, but we're going to say this as many times as you need to hear it to get this through to you. The narcissist has no empathy. The narcissist has no empathy. We need to make a song, because when there is no empathy, there is no way to make a relationship work. Hi, welcome. Nice to see you. There is no way to make a relationship work when you are dealing with a narcissist. We can say that, but you have to grab a journal if you have to. Grab some loose leaf paper. Just grab some paper. And write down all the different ways that the narcissist devalued you, dismissed you, abandoned you. And really ask yourself, every time they belittled you, embarrassed you, ask yourself, is that love? Does God ever plead for us? Does he ever? Yeah, he's got unconditional love. But does he chase us in his unconditional love? No. Does God talk to us 7 ways to Sunday in order to convince us to follow him, in order to convince us to love him and show that we love him? Does he try to talk us into receiving the truth and hearing the truth and believing the truth? So why do we do that with the narcissist? Because we're looking outside of ourselves instead of looking in here for love. You know, I realized I talked about this already the other day about narcissistic injury, but you know what? It's fine. It's okay. For those of you who haven't heard this before, I hope you get something out of this video. And you know what? For those of you who are coming back in and listening to this again, thanks for showing up. Because you know what? We love to repeat ourselves here on this channel. It's necessary. Repeating stuff that you already know is good. Memorization is what forms healthy habits and what forms conviction. It forms understanding through learning. So, you know what? It's okay. It's okay that we already went through this on Tuesday. I'm just sad that we have to talk about this. And what I went through with myself today, and today's not the only time, it's getting less and less and less. And not as severe. I used to really, really verbally beat up on myself, and I would like cry myself to sleep, and I would be like a wreck for 2 or 3 days. So I think I'm doing pretty good. I'm not happy that I blew a gasket, that I was triggered. I'm not happy about that at all, but it needed to happen. And I'm not willing to say this to you without really recognizing this in myself. That we have our own narcissistic injury going on that's personal. We are narcissists to ourselves. And people don't like to hear that. There's only two voices in your head that you listen to, the voice of God and the voice of the enemy, and both use your own voice to talk to you. Most times. One voice speaks out of fear, the other one out of unconditional love. It's up to you to judge what voice is coming from which perspective. And I didn't do that today. I did not do that. I had some stuff going on. Stayed up till 3 o'clock in the morning trying to frickin' fix my computer because my computer had an update and the Windows screen was flashing. It was flashing, black to then the desktop picture. It was like flashing. So, I didn't give into it last night. I just okay, well, we'll fix it. Figured out how to, I love computers. Sorry, I'm trying to put on my sweater. I'm a little bit chilly. I love computers, and I at one time wanted to be a coder, get into computer coding, but the C++ was enough for me. And it's a lot of work, so I just didn't follow through with it, but I love working on computers. I love seeing how things work and but this baby is my mainstay. This computer is what I use to write my books on and write my articles with, so that's what I got it for. And for it to be flashing, I just oh no. Well, if I can't fix it in safe mode, then I'll just keep it around until I've got the money to fix it or replace it and go from there. And so I went to bed, got up this morning, wasn't feeling so hot, little agitated. Yeah, this is just one more thing I got to do today on my list of things to do, and fixed my computer, thank you Jesus, but before my computer was fixed, I had to go on a rampage against myself. And I started talking to you guys on live. And it's a running pattern in me. I don't claim to be perfect. And yeah, counselors, therapists, yeah, we all need help too. We're people too, so don't label us as perfect. But if I'm not willing to show you myself and show you my vulnerabilities, this isn't about me. But I'm trying to explain to you that you're going to go through this. When you work out your salvation with fear and trembling, the enemy's going to come knocking. When you start unpacking your, trauma, the enemy's going to come knocking. It's like you get rid of the sin little by bit. It's like each time you go through this, each time I go through this devaluation of myself, it gets less and less and less. It's called the weaning process. People want a quick fix to heal themselves. They want a quick fix to God. They want a quick fix to salvation. And yes, Jesus died on the cross for our sins, but didn't die for the one living in here, the ego. God didn't die for the ego nature, so that's up to us. We have to become responsible to walk in self-control and not allow ourselves to be given over to our emotions. And after it's said and done, God will come and nurture you. God will come and speak to you and share with you things. When you're in a place of humbleness after you rage and you're just like, oh my gosh, I did that, I said that, oh my gosh, I can't believe it. Like, oh, am I ever going to learn to stop taking this problem out on myself? Am I ever going to learn? And there's God's small, silent voice speaking to you. And you're given insight. And that insight is to help direct you to when the problems come, when the enemy comes knocking again on your door. You're not going to be triggered because you've got insider information. God shared that about me. This is why I do that. Okay. I'm not going to bury my feelings, but I'm going to let them percolate around me, and I'm going to, I feel agitated. Why do I feel agitated? Why am I feeling anger? Journal it if you have to. Write it down if you have to. But those feelings, those negative feelings that we no longer want, have taken care of us for so long. They have become a part of us. They have become like our internal caretakers. And so when we try to live a different way, they're going to be like, that ego inside of you is going to be like, oh, hell no. No. I deserve to take care of you. I've been taking care of you since you were a kid, so why quit now? No, you don't get to quit, Shannon. You don't get to quit on your ego. You don't get to push your ego aside and, look for a better life and hope for a better life and work towards a better... No. You're going to sit here and you're going to continue to take out the fear that I project on you. That's what the ego does. And just like with the narcissist, we've got to distance ourselves from the narcissist. We have to distance ourselves away from the problematic portion of ourselves. The ego that's rooted in fear. The ego that's rooted in jealousy. The ego that's rooted in offense. The ego that's rooted in pious nature, where your ego, don't tell me, there is your ego nature, thinks that you are better than everybody else. You may not show it, but in secret, your ego is like, all puffed up, puffs you up. And you deserve to have this, and you deserve to have that. So why don't you? Oh, it's not fair. Life isn't fair. I know. I say it to myself whenever I get into these tirades and beat myself up. I have a habit. I'm going to confess to you guys. I have a habit. And this stems from childhood because I can see where I get this from so clearly. I have a habit of working on a project and believing in it, following through with it, but the minute that it doesn't get the attention, or, I won't say the minute it doesn't get attention, I'll say I have my limit of something not getting attention. I have my limit of being ignored, of having my stuff being ignored. I have my limit. And so when I'm like, okay, time's up. 5 months have gone by and that course still isn't getting traction. What the hell did I do? What the hell is wrong with me? There must be something wrong with me. Maybe I don't have the faith in God. Maybe I don't have the faith in myself. Maybe I am just not meant to, sell courses and help people. That's what I do. And that is something that goes right back to my childhood. And I couldn't see that when I was with the narcissist because I was too busy walking on eggshells, too busy trying to freaking stop him from hitting me, or stop him from verbally abusing me, or, getting mad and throwing something, or, threatening divorce, or, threatening to leave, or just picking up his, pack his bags and leave for the weekend and not tell anybody where he's going. Like, I was so busy in that marriage trying to keep it together. And that's the thing. I'm pretty sure that you guys are so busy trying to hold down the fort and keep yourselves together in order to prevent the narcissistic injury. You can't work on yourself during that time. It's difficult. It's difficult to see the problems that you're carrying. It's hard to see your own baggage. It's when I began to distance myself from the narcissist, then I could dedicate my emotions to nurturing myself and really take a look at what my needs are and what needs are not being fulfilled. So, yeah, the best thing you can do from narcissistic injury is to leave the room and do not take it personal. Don't take it personal. The narcissist is hurting. Yes, that does sound sympathetic, as it's meant to be sympathetic. I don't hate the narcissist. I hate what they do. I hate what their demons do. But this is something God shared with me today after my tirade. It wasn't really a tirade, it was just venting. But still, I know better. And God shared this with me, that with us who are God's children, the born again experience is not just, oh, I'm not a sinner anymore. I love Jesus and I believe in him, so I believe in the cross, so therefore I'm born again. That's not the born again experience. The born again experience is to act like him, to be like him, to be the state of being of love. 1 Corinthians chapter 13, verses 4 through 8. Love is patient, love is kind, it is not rude. It does not dishonor others. It keeps no record of wrongs. It doesn't rejoice in evil, but instead it rejoices with the truth. It always trusts, always hopes, always perseveres. Love never fails. This is what we are supposed to adopt in character. The narcissist comes into your life. God allows the narcissist to come into your life in order so that you can love the narcissist with unconditional love, but you are supposed to love yourself with unconditional love. And you aren't supposed to believe what the narcissist says, but oopsie, we end up believing what they say. And so because we take on that burden of believing what they say, we have now that trauma. And if we just unlearn those lies that they told us that we believed as true, and adopt the character of unconditional love, then we start living as the born again Christian. We start living out our born again experience, because like God cannot change, we cannot change. So we become injured and we become triggered in order so that we can see ourselves and manage our emotions appropriately, responsibly. If you're going to love other people unconditionally too, or if you're going to love people unconditionally, You have to love yourself unconditionally. That's the way it will only work. You can't love other people unconditionally and then love yourself with conditions. And you can't love yourself unconditionally and love everybody else with conditions. That's not how God's kingdom works. Kingdom power, kingdom love, kingdom authority, kingdom rule is this, that everybody is treated the same. There's no favorites. Everybody is loved. And yes, the narcissist is loved, but not in the way that you think. Love is not begging somebody for affection. Love is not chasing somebody for affection and attention. Love is letting somebody be who they choose to be. And just because they choose to hurt you doesn't mean you allow them. That's not love. That's not unconditional love. Unconditional love for yourself is, hey, I'm standing up for myself. Here's the thing, if you stand up to bullies, have you ever stood up to a bully? How do you feel about seeing somebody being bullied? Would you step in? Would you step in if you saw somebody your own age, an elder, maybe even a younger person, if you saw that somebody was being bullied, pushed around, somebody was tossing insults at them publicly, would you step in? There's your answer. If you will step in for a total stranger and stand up for them and help them out and come to their rescue and offer them love and support and protection, then you must do that for yourself. You must. It's a requirement. But we don't stand up to the bullies in our lives because we're isolated. Nobody's around. So if we get hurt, nobody's going to see that. And people say, oh, why don't they leave? I don't understand why they won't leave. If it was me in that situation, I would leave. No, guarantee it, you wouldn't. If you were in the situation most of us men and women are with the narcissist, you wouldn't. Because you couldn't leave. Because the narcissist is not so in your face with their systematic way of taking you down and picking out your places where you're secure in yourself. See, the narcissist looks at you in a way that you'll never assume, you'll never think. They're observing you. They're observing areas where you're strong in your emotional resolve and areas where you're emotionally weak. And they come in as the Trojan horse and they chip away at your weak spots, little by little. It's not like chunk here and a chunk there. Oh, then if they were taking pieces of you like that in chunks, then you would grab a clue. But no, they set out for your emotional demise by piece, little by little. You know those men who dug tunnels underneath the jail cell and they would put the dirt in their socks and they would hide their socks in their trousers, and so when it was time for them to go out and have their exercise time outside, they would find a spot of dirt and they would empty out their socks that had dirt in them from digging tunnels. These people were patient enough to do that to avoid getting caught because they wanted their freedom so badly. Well, that's like the narcissist. They need us so badly that they are willing to be patient to a point, and their patience is that they are willing to chip away at our emotions little by little, piece by piece, just little bits at a time. So someone says to you, oh, I don't know why they don't leave. If it were me, I'd leave. Well, sorry, but you don't understand narcissism if you have to speak like that. You've never been hurt by a narcissist. And yeah, it's offensive to be talked to like that. It's degrading. It's implying that many of us who have been injured just don't have a clue. Well, you don't know what you don't know. And we're not weak. Many of us, most of us, you know what? I'm going to say all of us. All of us who have been injured by a narcissist, who have come out from a narcissistic relationship, we're some of the strongest frickin' people you'll ever meet. You're included in that. Don't ever let anybody tell you that you are less than because you stayed or you didn't stay or you put up with that or you didn't put up with that. Don't let anybody tell you that you are less than. You're struggling just like everybody else. Yeah, that's what we do. But God has a purpose and a plan for you, and He allowed the narcissist to come into our lives for a major purpose. This is what God said to me today after I had my little rant on video today. Because ultimately, we're all fighting for an identity. The narcissist doesn't have one. They forfeited their identity the minute that the enemy in the Garden of Eden decided to take Adam and Eve out. And the narcissist harvests our identity and uses it for his own gain or her own gain. And the reason why we're vulnerable is because we're not yet mature in our own identities in Christ. We're still sitting on the fence. We want our own identity that, identifies ourselves not just by our name, but the things that we do and the things that we stand for. But God told me today that when you live the Christ-like lifestyle and you become born again, you're identifiable with Christ by His name. See, what God shared with me today is Moses, like all the patriarchs, like all the ancestors of the Bible, all the disciples, all like Moses and Jonah and Caleb and Joshua, Samuel, Elijah, Elisha, Paul, Matthew, Mark, Luke, John, Mary, Martha, all these people who followed Jesus, even the people in the Old Testament who gave credit to God's Son, and even David, King David, these people were identifiable through Jesus. They had their individual names to associate, yeah, that's King David, that's Moses, that's Elijah, yeah, that's Elisha, yeah, that's Samuel. But you take away those people's names, all these people would be identifiable by the same character who they followed, Christ Jesus. So today God shared with me that something very profound, that I was so young in living with my mother that I didn't have my identity formed. I was 7 years old, well, 6.5, 7 years old, when I went to live with my foster family permanently. But between the time I was 3 and 5, I was flip-flopping between foster families and going back to my mom. So I never had an identity with her. My dad was non-existent, so he never spent time with me. So I was kind of alone a lot. And then when I got into my foster family, my foster mother said, no, you don't have a family. Your family, you're not allowed to talk about them. We're your family now. In fact, you can start calling me mom. You don't need to call me by my first name anymore. But did she accept me or try to accept me as one of her own? No, that dynamic was not there. So she, I had what little identity I had. I remember hating my name because this foster family made me feel like S-H-I-T. I hated my name. And that was until I found out that my grandfather, who I loved very dearly, he named me. And then I became proud of my name. And so the reason why I'm fighting still, my ego is still fighting, is because the more I learn, I'm learning and growing. Like with these videos for you guys, I'm learning and growing too. And I put the things that I learn into practice, and yeah, my ego takes a kick and will kick my ass because it's got to fight back. That's just the way it is. And so God said to me today is because I'm stepping towards kingdom power. That's what I want for myself. That's my goal, to live the righteous lifestyle and be that born again Christian, be that person who, champions for unconditional love and doesn't settle for anything less and doesn't change and doesn't falter in that. And so my ego is fighting that, because all of us, when it comes down to it, our egos is where we are identifiable. That's where our identity is. Our identity is rooted in fear and jealousy, revenge, anger, grief, sadness, feelings of unworthy, feelings of rejection, feelings of abandonment. Those 3 things, rejection, abandonment, and unworthiness, those 3 things are pretty common for most of us, whether we've been traumatized or not. And our identity is centered around negativity. And so the more you try to live positively, because God is all positive, and you do your meditations and you meditate on unconditional love, you work out your ego and you sit with your feelings and you lessen the charge of your anger and your sense of hopelessness and your sadness, you sit with those feelings, you do your journaling, work it out, but yet still there's the lingering trigger there. And it's because your ego doesn't want to be controlled, because when you become the controller, when you become the master over your ego, that's when you hold all the power in your house, aside from Jesus, of course, but you hold control over which feelings you want to express and how you want to express them. As your identity shifts towards Jesus's identity. Notice Jesus did not react when he was whipped, when he was forced to carry his cross. He never asked. He never fought and said, "Why are you doing this to me? I'm innocent. Why are you treating me like I'm guilty?" He never said anything. Why? Because that is mercy in unconditional love. This is what it means to turn the other cheek. I remember when I first was a Christian and I read that, I got offended. I got offended. You're telling me Jesus says that we're not allowed to stand up for ourselves, but we have to turn the other cheek? I know why now. We have to turn the other cheek in here or in here. We have to turn the other cheek with our ego, because our ego is who we are. It will always be who we are until Jesus comes back. But we have the power to put it down in a place of dormancy and put to rest those negative, unwanted feelings that no longer serve us. And yeah, you're going to get pushback. And yeah, it's going to feel like an enemy lauding over you and gritting its teeth and gnashing its teeth at you. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. If you think your ego loves you, if you think your ego is for you, you got another thing coming. Your ego is against you, because your ego is rooted in fear. Your ego is the undermining aspect of you knowing what you want to do, but you don't do what you want to do. You have your ego to thank for that. Everything negative is attached to your ego. And by you giving attention to your ego gets fuel from you. By your ego assuming the high position of being godlike status in your mind or in your temple, as your ego whispers in your ear and you are quick to run to judgment, you are quick to listen. And I'm guilty of this too. The ego is the narcissist in here. And so we have the ego reflection in some other narcissist outside of ourselves. And so the ego out there challenges the ego in here, and we just give our emotions over to the situation and to the person, saying, "You hurt me, you traumatized me, you did." Yes, they did. But we have the power to lessen that trauma by detaching ourselves from those feelings, by standing in a new perspective, and instead of allowing ourselves to get triggered, we have the power to feel those feelings, sense them, and look at those feelings like a child throwing a temper tantrum. Does a child say, get down on their knees to their child and say, "Can you please stop, I beg you, please stop throwing a temper tantrum. Mommy will give you all the money in the world. Mommy will give you all the dollies you want. Mommy will give you all the chocolate bars. Let's go home, please stop, little child." No. A parent will make sure that their child is not in harm's way when the child throws a temper tantrum, but the parent will allow the child to throw a temper tantrum as the parent leaves the room, because the child wants an audience. We have to leave the room. And if you can't leave the room when you're in front of a narcissist, you won't be able to leave the room in here. When your ego turns narcissistic on you, you won't be able to leave the room. In the way of detaching yourself and distracting yourself and going and working out as you get rid of all that pent-up anger or stress, or go, go for a walk, go read the Bible, go call up a friend, go shopping, go do something productive, go pull weeds, go work in the garden, go detail your car. And as you are, your attention is distracted, then you have the authority to go, when you're distracted, to think about the situation. Think about why you were given, why your anger and your distress came up so easily. You get to think that through in a clear-headed way. Does this make sense? Timestamp 111. Interesting. So I hope I see you guys tomorrow at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, because I will do what I wanted to read today. I will talk about that as what do I want to talk about? What will we be talking about tomorrow? Oh yeah, okay. So I want to talk about how you can use some healing modalities. We're going to do a deep dive into healing from trauma tomorrow. It's not going to be like anything major or triggering. I'm just going to take you through some steps tomorrow. So I hope I get to see you tomorrow. So with that said, I think I'm going to end this live. And thank you for watching. Thank you for being here for me. I mean, you guys helped me work it out today. And again, I apologize for my rant, my venting. But I didn't say anything bad, I don't think, on the video. But, you guys got to see how I was tempering myself in my trigger. And, it's just, the more you become aware of your triggers, the less the emotional charge. And I've noticed that today. And I went off and did some thinking, and God shared some really good insights with me that I shared with you. And I hope this resonates with you in some way. So watch out for the emotional injury of the narcissist. Just watch yourselves and be careful. When you see it coming, notice the tells, because you can often see when their injury is going to happen. There's certain facial tells. Maybe they pace, maybe they sigh, maybe they slam things down on the table, slam cupboards. You can head that off at the pass and just get yourself out of harm's way and just make yourself scarce for a couple of hours until they cool off. That's the best thing you could ever do for yourself, because you're not to blame, and it's not your responsibility to take the brunt of the narcissistic injury as they blame you. They're responsible for how they feel. They are responsible for what they say and what they feel. So don't let them project onto you. So if you have comments, questions, or suggestions, you are always welcome. to email me at my email, Shannon Gilmore, GILMOUR @protonmail.com. You can also head on over to ko-fi.com/Shannon Lynn for downloadable content, some interesting information for free, and also paid memberships, coaching courses, coaching books, downloadable ebooks. Got a lot of stuff there for you if you're into self-help healing through understanding your spirituality through a non-denominational approach. So my name is Shannon Gilmore, and I just want to say thank you for showing up with me today and sharing in this live video, and it's been fun. So go make your evening great. Have a good sleep.